제발 정신 차려봐. 나 제발. 진짜 이러지 마요. 이러지 마요.
Crying scenes are some of the most powerful moments in K-dramas. And when the acting is done right, those scenes don't just make you cry, they stay with you for days. Today we're counting down 10 K-drama actors who deliver absolutely devastating crying performances. Let's get into it. 10. Kim Ji-won.
난 네가 내 옆에 있길 바랬다고. 혼자 있기 싫었다고.
Okay, starting us off. Have you ever watched someone cry while desperately trying not to? Because that's basically Kim Ji-won's whole thing, and it is wrecking. Like, when she cries on screen, it never feels like acting. It feels like you accidentally walked in on someone's most private moment. The clearest example? Queen of Tears. There's that moment when Hye-yoon's illness gets revealed to her family, and it is just wow. Kim Ji-won herself admitted she watched that episode back while crying. And honestly, same. Because her performance isn't big or loud. It's this heartbreakingly restrained thing. Like someone clinging to their dignity while everything around them starts falling apart. And then there's My Liberation Notes, which somehow hits even harder because it's so quiet. As Mi-jong, the sadness isn't fresh. It's worn in. It's the kind of grief that's been sitting in someone's chest for years. No dramatic breakdowns, just these small, suffocating moments where the weight of ordinary life finally shows up on her face. Love Struck in the City gives us a different flavor. Messier, more exposed. Her scenes with Chang-wook are full of that horrible, awkward heartbreak where you know things went wrong, you know you still care, and you almost hate yourself for it. And even way back in Fight for My Way, she was already doing this. As Choi A-ra, the tears come from that specific kind of pain. When your dreams feel just out of reach and your pride is the first thing to crack. Here's the thing about Kim Ji-won. She doesn't just cry beautifully, she cries truthfully. The restrained tears, the embarrassed tears, the exhausted ones people try to hide. She captures all of it. 9. Lee Jong-suk.
아버지 돌아오면 왜 다 불꽃놀이도 보러 가고 다시 옛날로 돌아갈 거라고 여기 장담한다고.
Okay, so some actors cry on screen. Lee Jong-suk, he collapses. And here's the wild thing. That's actually what makes him so compelling to watch. While You Were Sleeping is probably the best showcase. You get literally every version of his emotional acting in one drama. Protective crying, guilty crying, panicked crying, and that face-crumbling moment right before the tears fall. It's a lot, in the best possible way, but Pinocchio is really where his reputation was cemented. Because he doesn't try to look cool while he's suffering, not even a little. The voice shakes, the face goes, the tears are messy, and instead of hiding any of it, he just leans straight into the humiliation and the grief and the desperation. All of it. And somehow, that makes him more charming, not less. When Lee Jong-suk cries over love or guilt or helplessness, it doesn't feel performed. It feels like emotional surrender. You believe every second of it. Hymn of Death shows a quieter, more melancholy side. His character feels like someone who already knows the story ends badly and is grieving it in advance. And Big Mouth flips it entirely. Forget soft romantic heartbreak. This is survival mode desperate. Fear, frustration, rage underneath the tears. The point is, he cries a lot, he cries messily, and somehow every single time it works. 8. Park Eun-bin.
저에게는 좋은 어머니가 아니었지만 지상현 군에게만큼은 좋은 엄마가 되어주세요.
So here's a question. What does it look like when years of emotion just finally break loose all at once? Park Eun-bin will show you. Her crying is never just one thing. It's relief and loneliness and gratitude and heartbreak all hitting at the same time. And it is a lot to watch. The best example is Castaway Diva. Mok-ha is a woman who spent years completely alone and isolated. So when she receives flowers from someone who cares about her and just loses it, you feel it. The tears aren't pretty or polished. They're overwhelming, like her whole body doesn't know how to process being cared for anymore. Extraordinary Attorney Woo works differently. Woo Young-woo doesn't express emotion the conventional way. So when something finally breaks through that composure, those moments hit much harder than a standard breakdown would. It's the contrast that does it. And the king's affection adds another layer. Her character has been hiding her identity for so long that when she finally lets the emotion out, it's not just sadness. It's the release of an entire identity's worth of pressure. What makes Park Eun-bin special is that you never feel like she's performing sadness at you. You feel like you're watching someone who has genuinely just run out of room to hold it all in. 7. Park Bo-gum.
오빠가 없어야 내가 살아.
You know those actors who just get to you, even when you're not sure why? Park Bo-gum is absolutely one of them. When he cries on screen, there's no performance to it. It's completely unguarded, like the character has been caught off guard by their own feelings. When Life Gives You Tangerines is the most recent example, and it's genuinely hard to watch in the best way. This is a story spanning decades, so the emotional weight has had time to really build, and when tragedy hits and they lose their youngest child, Park Bo-gum doesn't play it dramatically, he plays it stunned. Like a father whose brain just can't catch up to what happened. His whole presence seems to cave inward, and that hollow helplessness, absolutely gutting. But this isn't new for him. Reply 1988 showed it early. Quiet scenes, family moments, small emotional beats that somehow landed with way more weight than they had any right to. And Love in the Moonlight showed us that when Park Bo-gum cries in a romance, it never reads as performance. It reads as someone completely unable to pretend they're okay. The reason he works so well is simple. He doesn't protect himself in those moments. If the character is broken, he lets the character be broken, fully. And you feel every bit of it. 6. Kim Hye-yoon. Okay, so desperate crying, like truly desperate, barely holding it together. This is not pretty crying. Nobody does it quite like Kim Hye-yoon. Lovely Runner is the showcase for this. As Im-sol, she goes through basically every emotional breakdown a character can have. Devastated crying, panicked crying, relieved crying, and those heartbreaking moments where she's clearly trying to stay strong and just can't. The Rain reunion, the emotional hugs, the moment she suddenly bursts into tears, it all feels like it's coming from a place of genuine panic and love and regret all tangled together. These tears aren't decorative. They feel like they physically cannot be stopped. Extraordinary. You already hinted at this. That scene where Dano cries and says, "I want to live," is one of those moments that just stays with you. Kim Hye-yoon later said she kept crying after filming ended because she couldn't shake the emotion. And you can tell. Sky Castle gives us a completely different angle. No romance here, just pressure. The crushing, relentless pressure of expectations. Her breakdown scenes in that drama feel almost explosive, like a pressure cooker finally giving out. What makes her special is that her emotional scenes always feel inhabited, like she's not visiting these feelings for the camera, she's living in them. And that's why they hit so hard. 5. Namgoong Min.
그치. 왜?
Here's the thing about Namgoong Min. He makes you lean forward before he even starts crying. Because he doesn't go straight there. He sits with the pain first. You watch the character trying to hold it together, trying to stay composed, and then the tears come, slowly. And by the time they do, you've already been watching someone fight them for so long that the release is almost a relief. My Dearest is the best example of this. Jong-hyun is the kind of man who has decided love is not something that happens to him anymore, except it does. And watching those walls crack, watching someone who tried so hard not to care finally fail at that, is devastating. The moment he quietly burns a gift meant for Gilchae, no words, just grief. Heavy and personal and completely silent. $1 Lawyer surprises you with it? You spend most of the drama watching this witty, almost playful guy, and then his backstory lands, and suddenly that whole persona looks like armor. The shift is jarring, and it's supposed to be. The veil goes darker, trauma, memory loss, guilt. The tears here aren't soft, they're haunted, and his latest, Our Movie, leans into that mature, grounded sadness he does so well. A man quietly reckoning with running out of time. The thing about Namgoong Min is that the control itself is the performance. When it finally breaks, it doesn't feel like a dramatic moment. It feels like the inevitable end of a very long fight. 4. Kim Tae-ri.
너 때문에 사랑을 배웠고 이제 이별을 알게 되네.
Right, so if you want to understand why Kim Tae-ri's crying scenes are so powerful, the word you're looking for is restraint. Her characters don't fall apart easily. And that's the whole point. Mr. Sunshine is still the gold standard for this. Go Aishin is disciplined, composed, raised to be strong, which means that when she does cry, it carries the weight of everything she's been refusing to show. The tears aren't the scene. They're the cost of the scene. Everything she's been enduring finally finding its way out. Jong-yeon. The Star is Born strips all that dignity away and leaves something much rawer. When Jong-yeon faces losing her voice, her dream, her whole identity, Kim Tae-ri plays it with this hollow, defeated exhaustion. Like someone watching their future dissolve and not even having the energy to fight it. And then there's 25-21, which proves she doesn't need war or tragedy to break your heart. Nahidu's tears come from growing up, from disappointment and first love, and the moment you realize things can't stay the way they were. Simple stuff, still completely devastating. 3 totally different kinds of stories, 3 totally different kinds of pain, and she nails all of them. 3. Chang-wook.
이렇게 달마다 매일매일 나는 망가져가고 있거든.
When Chang-wook cries on screen, something in the scene shifts, because it means the character has genuinely hit their limit. There's nothing left to hold back, and it never looks clean. It looks exhausted, like someone who has been carrying something too heavy for too long and finally just can't anymore. Empress Kai is remarkable because of how early it came in his career. He was already doing this, playing Ta-hwan, this weak, lonely emperor caught between fear and love and desperation, and delivering breakdowns that felt genuinely exposed. Not polished vulnerability, raw, uncomfortable vulnerability. If You Wish Upon Me shows how far that's come. Yoon-ri starts out closed off, defensive, angry, and every crack in that armor hits harder because of how much work went into building it. When he finally breaks, it doesn't feel like a dramatic moment. It feels like structural collapse. Even in the tough guy roles, the worst of evil, the manipulated, he never pretends the emotional damage isn't there. The armor is part of the character, but so is what's underneath it. And Love Struck in the City gives us something different. That specific, painful vulnerability of someone who is embarrassed by how much they still love a person. The scenes with Kim Ji-won hit differently because of it. Ji Chang-wook's whole thing is that he refuses to protect his character's pride in emotional moments. He lets them be fully exposed. And that's exactly what makes those scenes so hard to look away from. 2. Park Bo-young.
다시 아무것도 아닌 때로 못 돌아가겠어. 거기밖에 돌아갈 데가 없는 것도 아는데.
Okay. You know how some actors make you cry with big, dramatic, sweeping scenes? Park Bo-young makes you cry with a look, with a tired exhale. With someone quietly falling apart in the most ordinary way possible, her crying is never theatrical, it's worn down. It's the specific feeling of someone who has been strong for everyone else for so long that when they finally stop, when the emotion finally spills over, it feels almost like a physical release. Daily Dose of Sunshine is her absolute best showcase for this. Yoon Da-eun isn't overwhelmed by one dramatic moment. She's overwhelmed by accumulation. Every patient, every heartbreak she witnesses, every time she keeps going anyway, until she can't. And Park Bo-young plays that build-up so carefully that when it finally gives way, it feels completely inevitable. That performance earned her Best Actress at the Blue Dragon Series Awards and honestly, absolutely deserved. Doom at Your Service layers it differently. Fear and love and resignation all existing at the same time in someone who knows their time is limited. Quietly devastating. Our Unwritten Soul shows a more mature side. Twin sisters, switched lives, two very different kinds of grief sitting side by side. No single cathartic breakdown. Just layered, slow-burning sadness that she carries through the whole drama. And if you haven't seen A Werewolf Boy yet, go watch it. Her performance as Soon-yi is gentle and heartbreaking in equal measure, and the ending will absolutely get you. Park Bo-young doesn't just cry well, she makes you understand exactly why the character is crying. And more often than not, you end up crying for the same reason. 1. Shin Hye-sun.
엄마하고 아빠 보고 싶어서.
And at number 1, if there is one actress in K-drama right now who can completely destroy you with a single crying scene, it's Shin Hye-sun. And here's why. Most actors play sadness. Shin Hye-sun plays the war happening before the sadness wins. You can see pride and loneliness and anger and heartbreak all fighting for space on her face at the same time. And that's what makes the tears feel so heavy when they finally come. Angel's last mission. Love is still her best showcase for this. Lee Yeon-seo is a woman who has built her entire identity around not falling apart. Strong, composed, almost untouchable. So when the emotion finally breaks through all of that, it's not just sad, it's a collapse. You've watched her fight it for so long that the moment she stops fighting is genuinely devastating. Dear Hye-ri takes this in a more psychological direction, an announcer carrying grief over her sister, a painful breakup, and literally two fractured sides of the same identity to portray. The crying here feels heavier, less romantic, more like someone sitting with damage they don't know how to put down. See You in My 19th Life brings in a different kind of sadness, quiet, accumulated longing across multiple lifetimes. It's not explosive. It's the sadness of someone who has been carrying the same love for longer than most people have been alive. And she makes that feel completely real. And then there's Still 17, which might be her most technically interesting performance. Her character is physically 30, but mentally still 17, waking up to a world that moved on without her. So Shin Hye-sun plays the crying like a teenager would cry. Confused, fragile, almost innocent. Not the composed grief of an adult. The overwhelmed tears of someone who genuinely doesn't understand how things got this way. That's the thing about Shin Hye-sun. She doesn't just feel the emotion, she engineers it. She thinks about where the character is, what they've been carrying, how they would actually fall apart. And then she plays exactly that. No more, no less. And that precision, that's what makes her number 1. And that wraps up our list. So tell me, which actor delivers your favorite crying performance? Did your pick make the list? Or is there someone you think absolutely deserved a spot here? Let me know down in the comments. I know there are plenty of amazing actors I might have missed, so feel free to share your favorites. I'm always reading through your suggestions. And while you're here, make sure to check out this next video where we're talking about the most exciting upcoming K-drama couples of 2026. If you love K-drama romance, you won't want to miss that one.